a blessing to the world. I am a blessing to the world.
Is she humming?
Is that it?
That's a blessing.
I'm going back to this meditative state. I am a blessing to the world. So just take a moment to take that in. I am a blessing to the world. I invite you to close your eyes. Let's just take that deep breath in as we connect with who we truly are. And as we settle into the meditation this morning, I invite you to come back to your breath over and over again. So just follow your breath, taking it in and releasing it out. Taking it in, releasing it out. We're going to continue to just breathe together for a moment. In and out. Fully present with the breath. As you continue with that beautiful rhythmic breathing, become aware of your body and these sensations that are within that body. No attachment to what is showing up, just an awareness. If you start to go to why or judgment on it, go back to your breath. Then allow that awareness to come through again. Now bring your awareness to whatever thoughts are continuing to fly through your mind. Do not attach to them. Do not judge them. Just be aware of them. And when you find yourself attached, go back to your breath. Invite everyone to go back to your breath, focusing on the in and the out. knowing that we have connected mind, body, and spirit. And as we integrate the three, we become fully connected with the divine within. And so it is. Amen. So I invite you to become fully present to this room, and you need to wiggle your fingers a little bit, move around. The Fillmore's taught we are a threefold nature. It's a threefold nature of mankind. It's spirit, mind, and body. And sometimes when we go into meditation, we don't take the body with us. We're not aware of what's showing up in the body. So this is a little spiritual practice. You can actually find it online. It's about a 14-minute practice online. And it's under Unity Books / Living Originally. And Robert Brummett, one of the professors at Unity Institute, actually will talk you through it. He's actually got 10 meditations online. And this is the first one. And it's about self-awareness. We teach that everything is within our body. And sometimes when we do those meditations that we're trying to shut everything down, we don't allow things to emerge. So this was a practice, it's a meditation practice that allows us to have an awareness. And what we're going to talk about today is an awareness of our sacred contracts. Because I fully believe we each come here with a sacred contract. To answer a sacred contract, to be in a sacred contract. And the first thing I want to do is talk about a story that I know everyone knows, but you may not remember. This is the story of the little soul in the sun. How many of you have heard it? Few. So it's a children's parable, but it's a powerful parable. And this is truly a belief I have that I was willing when I stepped into Unity to say, what if this is true? Once upon no time, there was a little soul who had an extraordinary conversation with God. It said to God, I know who I am. I'm the light. And God said, that's right. You are the light. The little soul was so happy, for it had figured out what all the souls in the kingdom were there to figure out. But knowing who, it was not enough. The little soul felt stirrings inside, and now wanted to be who it was. And so the little soul asked God, now that I know who I am, is it okay for me to be it? And God said, you mean you want to be who you already are? Well, replied the little soul, it's one thing to know who I am, and another thing altogether to experience it. I want to feel what it's like to be the light. There's only one thing, said God. There is nothing else but the light. You see, I created nothing but what you are. Think of it this way. You are like a candle in the sun, along with millions and millions of other candles who make up the sun. And the sun would not be the sun without you. Yet, how to see yourself as the light when you are in the light? Only in darkness can you know your light. Will I be afraid of the dark? Asked the little soul. There is nothing really to be afraid of unless you decide there is. We are making it all up. We are pretending. Then God explained that in order to experience anything at all, the exact opposite of it will appear. It is a great gift, God told the little soul, because without it, you could not know what anything is like. You could not know warm without cold, up without down, fast without slow. You could not know here without there, now without then. And so when you are surrounded with darkness, do not shake your fist and raise your voice to curse the darkness. Rather be a light unto the dark. Then you will know who you really are, and all others will know too. The little soul thought some more and announced, I want to experience myself as one who forgives. That is very special, said God, but there is no one to forgive. There is not a single soul in all creation less perfect than you. Look around. Look around this room. Not a single soul less perfect than you. It was then that the little soul realized a large crowd had gathered, looking at the countless other souls gathered there. The little soul had to agree. But then a friendly soul stepped forward from the crowd. Not to worry, I will help you, said the friendly soul. You will, but what can you do? Why, I can give you someone to forgive, said the friendly soul. I can come into your next lifetime and do something for you to forgive. But why? Why would you do that? Asked the little soul. You who are a being of such utter perfection, what would cause you to want to slow down your vibration to such a speed that your bright light would become dark and dense? What could cause you who are so light that you dance upon the stars and move with the speed of your thought to come into my life and make yourself so heavy that you could do this bad thing? Simple, the friendly soul said. I would do it because I love you. The little soul seemed surprised. Don't be so amazed, said the friendly soul. You have done the same thing for me many times. Across all times and in many places, we have played together. You just don't remember. We have been the good and the bad. We have been both the victim and the villain. Many times before, each bringing to the other the perfect opportunity to express and experience who we really are. And so, the friendly soul further explained, I will come into your next lifetime and do something really hurtful. Then you will have the wonderful chance to experience yourself as the one who forgives. But what will you do? The little soul asked, just a little nervous. What will be so terrible? Oh, I'll think of something, replied the friendly soul. Then the friendly soul turned serious and said, you are right about one thing. You know, I will have to slow down my vibration and become very heavy to do this not so nice thing. I will have to pretend to be something very unlike myself. And so I have but one favor to ask of you in return. In the moment that I strike and smite you, in the moment that I do the worst to you that you could possibly imagine, remember who I really am. Remember who I really am. For I will have been pretending so hard that I will have forgotten myself. And if you do not remember me as I really am, I may not be able to remember for a very long time. And if I forget who I am, you may even forget who you are. Then we will need another soul to come along and remind us both of who we are. And so, as we come together, possibly we're coming together with sacred contracts that have already been made. And you guys have all shown up here in this community, drawn by some contract that you have made. Some sacred contract that has been made. Caroline Myss, in her book Sacred Contracts, which is a delightful study, talked about and said, as vital parts of a larger universal spirit, we each have been put here on earth to fulfill a sacred contract that enhances our personal spiritual growth while contributing to the evolution of the entire global soul. Entire global soul. So there are 7 attributes of a sacred contract. And I fully believe as this community is kind of in its ways with coming and going and trying to create this very solid core to move forward, possibly to another level, another step, as we were invited up to kind of look at where you go when you move on, when you grow and expand a little bit. I want to talk about that because I believe you're each here to fulfill a sacred contract and to fulfill it with each other. There are 7 attributes of that contract. First one is it's an individual and divine commitment to a mission that promises to expand the individual's spiritual consciousness as well as furthering the expression of the divine on earth. And I saw that in your mission statements, in all the statements you read this morning. You have set that intention here. And as you come in and you speak that, you are speaking part of your sacred contract. In a sacred contract, the divine guarantees that all materials or energy will be available for you. You have to be open and receptive to it, but it is all there, all that you need. You will have everything you need, but not necessarily everything you want. You will have to learn to use your inner resources, because everything we need is within, and we can draw that forth. We can turn within, we can use our prayer practices, our meditation practices to allow Spirit to lead us, allow Spirit to guide us to the right and perfect. So everything we need is within us, not everything we want. Payment is going to be in insight, self-awareness, and attainment of some of those spiritual attributes such as compassion, faith, discernment, and the blessing of grace on top of it all. A sacred contract's a learning process, and therefore it cannot be broken. You can try, you can kick, you can scream, you can resist, you can push, but you can't break it. It is there, and you will be called to it. And I've watched some of you over the past couple of years tug back and forth with, do I follow this path, do I not, a couple in this room, and knowing that there's such a deep calling for some of you, and you get to choose whether or not you're going to stay with it, but it's going to keep at you until you make a decision, I believe. The terms of your sacred contract will evolve as you evolve. So if I come in at this vibrational level into my contract, I can't jump right to here, but my contract's going to evolve as my vibrational level moves up, as I have an understanding of what I have stepped into, and as I have an acceptance and opening of what's coming in, what Spirit is calling me to do. And we know we have that 12, one of those 12 powers, which is your power for the month of free will, right? You have will, and you get to choose. You get to choose how you're going to perceive it, how you're going to step into it, how you're going to be with it. I fully believe you are all here for a sacred contract. So I want you to just pause a moment and close your eyes for a minute and think, what have I agreed to do, and why am I here this morning? What am I bringing into this community? What is the contract I possibly am agreeing to fulfill? And is there more that is mine to do at this time? Is there a nudging in me, like that 2-year-old tugging on the pants leg, wanting some attention? So just open your eyes and think about that for a little bit. What are you being called to do? What has brought you to this community? What are you being called to do in your personal life as far as your spiritual growth? And what are you being called to do within this community as part of your spiritual growth? Spiritual growth does not happen in isolation. It happens in community. You can do some of your work in isolation, but you know those people who went off to those caves and spent all their time in the caves, they plateaued out. And they had to come back to community to continue their growth. That's why the monks come together in community. That's why we have people meeting in whatever churches they have built. In Jesus' times, they met in people's homes, but they didn't do their work in isolation. They had sacred contracts that pulled them together into group and into community. And as you move into your sacred contract, if we do it with awareness, just like in the meditation, we brought awareness to our breath, we brought awareness to what was in our body, we brought awareness to what our thoughts were. When we bring awareness to the stages of the contract, it might help us move. It's kind of like a roadmap. So there are 5 stages. One is that contact. It's that moment of connection. It is that point in. 'in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 2. 2 is that moment of connection. It is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 3. 3 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 4 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 5 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 6 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 7 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 8 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 9 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 10 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 11 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 12 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 13 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 14 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 15 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 16 is that point in which we turn aside from our tribal values. 17 How many of you were raised in unity? Just, yeah. How many of you remember coming into a unity church for your first time? What was your experience? What did you experience? What was the aha when you first came in?
Connection.
Connection, immediate connection.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Coming home.
Coming home. And that's the answer probably 95% of the people who come into Unity will say is, I walked into a Unity church and I felt like I had come home. So I hadn't gone to church since I'd been 8. I walked in at the age of 50. And I knew I had come home and did not even know I was seeking. And a friend drugged me to the church and said, you have to go, you have to go, you have to go. And I said, no. My daughter got picked up by the police that night for underage drinking. And I said, okay, so I've been invited to go to church and he won't let me go he won't leave me alone until I go with him, so you can go to be punished. I mean, that was how I started my unity piece. And I walked in and went, oh my gosh, this is home. Okay, so and in that, I had to step aside from what my family thought. I tried. Many times in unity, we are stepping apart from what the tribe and the community thinks because the beliefs are so different at so many levels. Other levels they aren't, but in many ways the languaging is very different. So it's a turning point where we step away from our tribal values. Next step is heating, is the heating stage. It's when you actually start to awaken to the divine. So first I stepped away. I went, that's not working for me anymore. I just found this home. I had this connection with the divine all of a sudden that I've not had before, or that I've not had in group before. And now I'm going to start to awaken. And my question as I start to awaken is, what do I do? How do I do this? Do I have to change everything in my life? I just said, I'm kind of interested in this. I'm going to play with it. There's a stirring in me that's being really stirred up. And what do I do with it? So the Zen have a saying. They say, before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. And after enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. But I may do it differently. I'll have a different attitude. I'll have a different perspective. I will do it with more calm, probably. I will do it with more of a sense of being fulfilled in it. I won't be looking at just as a task that I have to get through. I will be fully present with it. So I'm heating this divine within each and every aspect of my life. I shift from pushing into people, trying to get them to see my way, to drawing out from people, to helping to pull out the divine within them, seeing the whole and perfect little soul they are, instead of trying to make them be what I think it needs to be. Make sense? See that shift? I taught school for 30 years almost. First 25, I pushed in. I shoved as much as I could into each one of those little children. After unity came into my life, I started to draw out from them. My whole classroom experience changed, their whole classroom experience changed. I had principals come to me and say, I don't know what fairy dust you're sprinkling on the kids, but keep it up, because it was amazing what shifted and what happened. Next step is renaming. What happened to Saul as he was walking down the road? Who remembers that story out of the Bible?
He's struck by lightning and gets knocked off his horse.
Yeah, and then what does he do? What does he do after that with his name Saul?
Paul.
He changes his name. So in renaming, whether we take on a name change, I took on the change to Reverend, or we just change our roles. So I changed what my role is. So if I'm coming into a spiritual community, as I awaken and I say yes to this contract and I step into it, I may go from someone who's just sitting in a seat to someone who says, well, I can volunteer, I can make coffee. To someone who says, I'm going to step in and take more classes because I want to be more of a leader in the church. To someone who says, I'm stepping all the way into it. I want to step into licensing and ordination, and I want to take on full leadership in the community. So it's renaming, whether it's a real name or whether it's just the role that you have. And then there's your assignments. Assignments are doing the work. So Robert Brummett wrote a book called Living Originally. It's what we're actually using down in Mesa for the whole year. We're doing a chapter a month. And he talks about 5 core practices that are our assignments in the spiritual journey. First one is radical self-awareness. It's that practice of knowing what my breath does, what that connection to spirit is, what my body is sensing and feeling, because our body is how we experience this reality, and within that, everything shows up. So it's kind of like that barometer for us. It lets us know what's happening. And then our thoughts, what's going through our mind. Second practice is deep self-acceptance. Knowing who I am, accepting the situation as it is, and being willing to be with that and present with that, not wanting it to be so different. Third is unlimited forgiveness. Can I forgive myself and others? Can I forgive wanting to change something that happened and make it different because in the past it's happened? Can I release that and let it go? Fourth is compassionate communication. Fifth is universal benevolence, universal kindness. Knowing everything is my teacher as we go through this, and that there is a soul showing up all the time to help me experience these assignments. And it's an agreement that was made. The last stage is surrender. Not my will, but thy will be done. Resist, I can do it in resistance, or I can do it dancing in chaos. Either way, I can resist it, I can dance with it. I can bargain. Anybody bargain with the divine before? If you do this, I'll do that. I bargained my way all the way through seminary. And letting go of control. Knowing that I'm not prepared to be fully in control. And so in this ministry, I'm asking, have you identified what your big sacred contract is? Have you identified what your personal contract is within this community? Are you fully engaged, or are you ignoring it? Kind of like shoving that 2-year-old off the pants leg while you're on the phone and they're tugging. Do you wish it would go away? So what if, just like the story, Little Soul in the Sun, you all came into your contract willing to serve? What would it look like? What would it feel like for you? What would it feel like to say yes? So as you go forward this week, I invite you into looking at the gifts you have and how you're willing to share for your own spiritual awakening, so that you do it in community so you have greater spiritual growth. I invite you to tithe 1% of your time to yourself. That's 9.5 to 10 minutes a day in meditation. Asking, what is my contract? What am I here to do? 1% of your awake time, 9 to 10 minutes a day. Can you find that time to do that for yourself? To get some clarity. And then I invite you to move forward with whatever clarity comes up for you, knowing that you're in the right place at the right time. And your soul is definitely welcome in this community.